Hello and welcome to the astrology reading of the autumnal equinox. I am filming from my van, which is parked right outside the playground where my 10-year-old son is playing with his friends. You might hear some noises from the traffic going by and some jets overhead. It's very loud here where I live in San Diego, but hopefully you will be able to hear and understand what we're talking about. So the equinox is basically when the sun crosses over into the sign of Libra. So what we're going to be covering is the meaning of the equinox, what part of the wheel of the year that is, what that represents for us on a spiritual and a physical level. And then we'll be looking at some of these identifying markers of the sun, what planets are nearby and in relational aspect, and just give you a few tips for how to work with this transition time. So equinox, as you probably have heard many times, repeated over and over, the word itself means equal parts, day and night. Equinox, equal night. So what's happening at the fall equinox is that we are entering into the last phase before we get into the winter solstice. So sun entering Libra has a huge representation of our soul's journey into this time of year, which has to do with our relationships. Because if we weren't living in cities, so for people who are living on homesteads and living in a more tribal situation where your survival depends upon working with other people and having a community. It's not so much like that in cities, because even the most hermity type of person will survive by going to the grocery store, and we don't really need each other in the ways of a natural society, the ways that a natural society does need each other. So in a natural society, the equinox at this point, the fall equinox, represents a time where we really need to see who has the squash, whose root cellar is full, who has the supply of eggs that have been preserved for winter. We need to know who has what. And so Libra, the sun entering into the sign of Libra, has a lot to do with how we are able to relate with other people. Within a community, as diverse as it is that who has the root cellar and who has the apple cider saved up and who has the eggs preserved and who, as diverse as those things are, that's how diverse our communities are. The person who has eggs is going to be very different than the person who has the apple cider. So the way that we are going to communicate with people who have a completely different viewpoint than what we have, which is everybody on the planet. There are people that you know very well, who you're very close with, who have a completely different way of viewing the world. And when sun enters Libra, this reminds us that we need to be able to have conscious, co-creative, non-hierarchical reciprocity in relationships with as many people as we possibly can within our communities. So this gets into starting to think about what we're going to harvest, what seeds we're going to collect and gather and store, what canning that we're going to do, all of that kind of stuff. So hopefully since 2020 and you're watching this video, hopefully by now you have been somebody who has started to learn different arts of how to be a human. Just, how to grow food, how to be self-reliant. And the autumnal equinox, sun going into the sign of Libra, is really all about that. And so if you haven't started to learn about how to be self-reliant, now is a very good time. Sun is going to be making a conjunction with this asteroid named Pallas Athena 4 days after the autumnal equinox. But because it's there at the time of the equinox, it stands out. Pallas Athena stands out as something to work with. So Pallas Athena, that represents the female, feminine warrior. Pallas Athena was a strategist who was able to, I'm going to say play war games, but it's more than that. Athena was also a healer. So a lot of the mythologies, the archetypes that are associated with war, a lot of times are also associated with healing. So the ones who knew how to make medicine, I call it the ones who know how to heal, also know how to kill. There's a lot of those. Medusa, Athena, Chiron. In ancient Kemet, we had Sekhmet, who was the best healer, also the strongest warrior who could kill, So they go together. So Pallas Athena at the equinox, being so close to the sun, lets us know that there are some strategies that we could be putting in place to get your ducks in a row, to make sure your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted, just like checking all of your systems, making sure that your systems are in check. Like when I was in the Navy, when I ran the emergency vehicle or the ambulance, every day that I would get on duty, the first thing I had to do was go through all of the inventory, check everything, check the sirens, and I had a little sheet, a little clipboard, making sure everything was in working condition, because at the time of needing it, that's not when you want to find out that the stuff doesn't work. So at autumnal equinox, especially this year, we want to make sure that our systems are in check. Check yourself. Make sure that the strategies that you have in place are adequate before you need them. And if they're not, ask for help. Get somebody who can help you with that. The other thing that jumps out to me about this equinox chart is that sun is in an out of sign opposition with Neptune. So what does that mean? The sun, if we didn't have this imaginary slices of the circle that we have, which is this astrology chart, which I absolutely adore. If all the lines weren't there and this was just a map of the sky above my head, the sun and Neptune would still be pretty much in opposition. Just because they're out of sign, it's only about 4 degrees. So I usually use about 3 to 6 degree orb when I'm looking at planets in relationship to other planets. So I would definitely consider this to be an opposition, even though it's out of sign. So that gives us this other layer to the autumnal equinox, which is twofold. One side of that is where we can be disillusioned, meaning that our mental model of reality can be very off. And what is reality? And, how is your mental model any more accurate than the next person's mental model? These are all Neptunian investigations into the reality of consciousness. Like, really, what is that even? And because this opposition is happening at the equinox, it's really giving me the feeling of like, what I said, check yourself. Like, you really need to check yourself. Maybe ask somebody who you trust to reflect back to you. Like, I'm going to say, hey, so this is what I'm thinking right now. This is kind of how I'm viewing my strategy for the next 3 months going into winter. These are the things that I have set out. I like to make little diagram type lists. They're not straight lines, but they kind of go all over the place, and just getting my thoughts out on paper. So maybe I might sit down with a trusted elder I'm thinking of the person now and just being like, hey, look at my plan and my strategy. Do you see any holes or anything I could be thinking about? And take that for real. Like, listen to what somebody else has to say about your strategy, because you can be disillusioned on your own thinking that is maybe missing something. I'm not very savvy on what's going on with, I don't watch the news. And so I have to really go out of my way to find out what's going on with the SEC and what's going on with the markets and inflation. And I don't know that stuff off. It's not, readily in my news feed. It's not something I usually look at, but it is something I need to know going into winter for my planning and my strategy. So I might get somebody to help me with those specific things because I know that I don't know those things. So that's one thing that comes to mind with Sun being in an out of sign opposition with Neptune. The next thing, which is my favorite, as the title of my YouTube channel, Awaken the Dream School. I love Neptune, and I have a Neptune aspect on my chart. I consider myself to be somewhat Neptunian. And the thing that I love about this Sun in the opposition to Neptune is that we have this wonderful opportunity to lay back, receive visions, really sit or lay in our dreamy state. Take those waking dream naps where you just kind of let your body relax. I think what I'll do maybe for the first week or two of autumnal equinox, the beginning of equinox, is maybe do some guided meditations and share some of that with you. That's been coming up a lot of like, how could I make a really nice recording, sharing some guided meditations, the things that I like to do when I want to get into that dreamy space and receive a vision. So there's so many techniques that I use that I want to share some of that with you here. So give me a comment in the comment section if that's something that you'd be interested in. Give me a little bit more encouragement, because I do have 5 planets in Pisces and I tend to think about things and see them, and then it's a little bit challenging for me to make it happen. So this could be a really good opportunity for us to receive a new vision, to dream bigger. And maybe, I'm seeing it as us resting more and like naturally allowing new visions to come up. But because it's the equinox, maybe we can go to gatherings, go to events that maybe you wouldn't normally go to. You can, on Facebook, you can look and see what events are happening in your area. And I don't mean like Zoom events. I mean like go in person to an event. And even if it's just to observe and kind of, people watch or whatever, just put yourself in some situations where you can expand your consciousness a little bit and possibly receive some new ideas, some new insights, some new internal stimulation that allows your dream to bubble up from the depths of your inner waters, which is what Pisces and Neptune is really all about. Okay, so at the day of the the day of the equinox, one last thing I want to mention is that the moon will be in Capricorn at 6 degrees, and we'll have just left a square. And this will be the square that happens right before the full moon. So that tells us that the place we'll be in the moon cycle is the closing square. Sorry, it's not the closing square. That is going to be Sun, Moon. Hold on a second. Oh my gosh. This is today. So it is the first square. So this is actually today we're having the first square. That's going to be tonight. So that would be a good piece of information to give you. The equinox is 22 September at 11:50 p.m. on Friday. So today is Thursday, And we are just now reaching into that first 90-degree angle between the sun and moon. So since the new moon, this is like the first challenge that we face in our new moon intentions. So whatever you wrote on your intentions, for me, it had a lot to do with strategies and my schedule of all the things I was going to be working on and how I was going to fit them all into my schedule. And the first challenge that we meet. So how do we overcome or meet the challenge? So my example right now is that I said I'm going to do this Autumnal Equinox video and post it on my YouTube channel. And I've been homeschooling. I had an out-call massage. I've been working on herbal orders for my herb business. And then my son is like, hey, I want to go play. My friend's going to the park. So I was like, okay, here's my solution. I'm going to bring the van and I'm going to set up and do the reading from the van. I wasn't going to let the challenge beat me. So I met the challenge. I'm a little hot because there's no windows open and I was trying to keep it quiet in here. So, woo. 90-degree angles create friction. It is a fiery, hot, something irritating that's meant to help you grow. It's to help you find a new way to, if there was everything was just easy and my intentions just easily flowed, I would never be challenged and I would never adapt and overcome. So that eclipse, I do want to talk about the eclipses, but that first square that's going to happen before the autumnal equinox is giving us an opportunity to face something challenging and irritating. Now, once we get to the full moon, let's not talk about that just yet. What I do want to kind of just bridge into a future video that I'm going to share about the eclipses. So the first eclipse is going to be on the 14th of October, which is really coming up right after this full moon. It's going to be at 21 degrees Libra on the south node. So all I'm going to say about that, because it's the next really big thing, is that from now until January-ish of 2025, we are going to have eclipses on the south node going through Libra. So this first eclipse is going to give us a really good glimpse of what that is going to be about for us personally. You would look at your chart, see what you have in Libra, and I'm just going to use this as an example. So I would say, oh, look, your Libra is you have Libra in the 4th house, and I can see you have all these planets here. And the south node is transiting that area of your chart. So that shows that there's going to be a lot of things being removed, a big cleanse and a detox, what Judith Hill calls a power outage happening wherever the south node is, that there's like things being pulled out because there's more energy going toward the north node. The north node is requiring us to go somewhere. It's like a power surge, as Judith Hill calls the north node. During eclipses, there's a surge of energy in that area. So for all of us, wherever Libra is on our chart, we are going to be going through a sort of release and a cleansing and a removal of things. It's ultimately everything in astrology is meant to work. And I know when people say a detox or a cleanse or releasing or power outage, it can sound a little bit scary, and it's not meant to be scary. Everything is meant to work. So Libra representing our relationships and how we are relational, there could be some big changes coming up about that. Okay, so that was my son just came in and asked me, Mom, can you tell me what are the traits of Capricorn? Okay, so let's go ahead and end there. I will come back on again very soon talking about the eclipses that we have coming up. Please feel free to leave any comments, ask any questions. I always love questions because it helps me kind of see where the energy is and what could be a cool thing to talk about next. So thank you so much. I look forward to connecting with you soon.